What do you got? What do you guys need to do to improve the PK right now?
That's I think well the real answer is spend less time in their zone. And then I think it's how do you get to that point. Ultimately, I don't care what penalty kill you have. It's a little bit like D zone coverage. If you spend lots of time there, you're gonna break down. Like other teams are gonna make plays, and I think our structure is fine. I think we know what we're doing. I think you miss an assignment a little bit, but that all happens to every team. It's just the best teams don't spend much time in their zone. So I think it starts by winning more faceoffs and getting clears right away. I think we got to do a better job on our penalty kill forecheck to force pucks out of the opponent's hands. Now it'll be really hard to do tomorrow because of how good the players are that are carrying the puck up the ice. But do what you can to try to, at the very least, create pressure situations. And then, whether it's off that PK forecheck or in the zone, on loose pucks or off lost faceoffs, find ways to pressure more. And if we can pressure and force the puck out of their hands, then you get a chance to get those clears and not spend as much time in your end.
Do you sense that you guys are kind of waiting a little bit in terms of kind of?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that, when you lose, it eats at your confidence, just like on specialty teams, when they struggle, it eats at your confidence. When you're in a little bit of a rut as a player, it eats at your confidence. So yes, I think when you're on a real hot streak, you're expecting everything to go right. Something go bad out there and it doesn't bother you at all. And I think, we've talked about this. We did a better job against Minnesota, but when you get scored on early and you're a team that's struggling, you kind of slump a little bit, so every night's a little bit different. The night against Calgary for me was more just we just didn't break the puck out of our end at all. We didn't have the puck enough at all, and so we just taxed ourselves defensively and spent too much time on our end. But I think there's only one way to get your confidence and swagger back, and that's to go out and find ways to win. And so we're gonna have to grind and find a way to win tomorrow.
Swagger was in here earlier. Jeff, you or the coaching staff, you seem like such an earnest, hardworking, hard on himself type of kid. Do you guys sometimes tell him, look, chill a little bit or something? Like you just take it easy on yourself a little bit sometimes?
My kids would say you don't know me very well. No, it's hard. It's hard as coaches. Like, you're trying to push them to be their very best. And Babs used to have a saying, catch him doing it right. And we try to do that with all our players. And certainly Sides is one of those guys. But Sides is he's got a good inner confidence and a good swagger to him that, he does a pretty good job of fighting through mistakes and coming the next shift and being better. He doesn't let it bother him too much. It doesn't affect his play too much. And that's ultimately why I think he's been a really good player and he's going to continue to be a really good player because he's got that mental toughness that the best have.
The last one, with him and Draisaitl, Sherman connection. Let's talk about Draisaitl. Obviously McDavid.
Yep.
But Draisaitl, how good is he?
Great. I had a chance to watch Leon up close at 3 World Championships that I was at, and he was there as well. And even from the first one to the last one, and just watched him grow as a player. The other night when he got the puck in his own end and he took off, I don't know that he had that kind of speed, 4 or 5 years ago. He's worked at it, and he broke away from Hedman. Like that says a lot. He's a great player. Like he's a great player. One of the very best in the league. He's an elite passer. Him and Huberdeau would be 2 of the best passers in the league. He's strong on the puck. He's a hard athlete to match up against, like Connor, because they just have such physical tools. So they certainly present issues, and I've got tons of respect for Leon.
Yeah, Daniela.
I thought we practiced well. I thought we practiced hard. I thought we had some energy. It's always harder in big buildings as opposed to a practice rink where, you just all the energy kind of gets drowned out. So it's hard. It's a little bit harder to judge, but I thought guys worked and I thought guys want to get better. And, we've got, I think 23 games left. We got to maximize every game. And so we got to find a way tomorrow night to come out and make sure that we're maximizing that effort.
Yeah. Go to Zoom, Alex.
Yep. Next, we go to Kevin Allen.
Yeah, Jeff, historically in hockey, we've always paid homage to the idea that it's hard for a young player to learn to play defense. We used to talk about, you need 200 games in the league before you really kind of have a handle on it. But it's pretty clear Sider's advanced. My question is, how advanced is he from a coaching perspective for a young defenseman?
Well, I think first off, I'd say pretty advanced. He's not out there just getting minutes because we don't have other guys that can fill those spots. He's out there because he's winning a lot of those minutes when he's on the ice. He's getting the best of a lot of the other team's best. I mean, you think of the expectation, lots of nights he's out against the very best of the other team. That's a lot for a young player, and he's done a real good job of it. So he is advanced in his defensive game. He's advanced in his all-around game. Does he need to get better at stuff? Absolutely, because ultimately he wants to be the best, and to do that, he'll have to continue to work like crazy to get better at things. And I think he will. I think he'll work like crazy. But yes, his game's advanced for sure.
I just saw there was a publication in Europe that listed Seider as the third best European defenseman in the NHL today, behind Yossi and Hedman. Is that plausible, possible? How do you look at that?
It's always hard. There's so many different situations. Off the top of my head, I'd have to really think about who the other European defensemen are. One name that comes to mind right away is Miro Heiskanen, and Heiskanen's done a heck of a job. And Heiskanen to me would be similar to Sides, where they're just both really, really good all situations defensemen, meaning in a defensive or an offensive, they're on the ice and the coaches want them on the ice. But I wouldn't want to compare them to a bunch of guys around the league yet. I think it's really important for guys to prove what they are, and to do that, you got to do it over a long period of time. But certainly, I've got a ton of respect for his game. I got a ton of respect for his work ethic and his inner confidence, and I think he's got a lot of factors that are going to allow him to be a really good defenseman in this league for a long time.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
Bob Duff.
Jeff, you've talked about with Rasmussen how when he plays the wing, it's a lot easier for him to be a net front guy. Do you still see him ultimately as a center, or is the center wing thing a debate that's kind of going on internally at all?
I would say there's some discussion at times. I think organizationally, we'd still like to see him ultimately. I watched Minnesota play the other day, and Eriksson Ek is really developed into one of the very best two-way centers in the league. I think that his lines got scored on the least 5-on-5 any line by a bit actually in hockey this year. And you think to yourself as a coach, if Matt Rasmussen can get to that level where, not only is he playing against the best, but he's winning those shifts and not getting scored on, man, that's a hell of an asset on your hockey team, and it makes you way better. And I've seen growth in Michael's defensive game through the course of the year. I think there's times where, it's been a lot to ask of him in those games that then you struggle a little bit, eats away at your confidence. But I think over time he's continued to get better. And so with his big frame, in a perfect world, I think you'd love to see him be a real elite shutdown center who also plays net front on the power play.
When you have a developing player like that, do you kind of want to settle him into a specific role, or does it really matter if he moves around to different spots in the lineup?
I think that's situational. The one time I put him on the wing, I was trying to give him a little bit of a break. I thought, he was getting scored on a bit at center, and that starts to eat away at you. So I thought I'd give him a little bit of a break. So I think there's times where it might be the right move to move him to a different position. But ultimately, I think our messaging's been pretty clear to him, and I think he's understood that, knows how he can separate himself in this league if he can become a real elite defensive center.
Thanks.
Yep.
Last question, Helene St. James.
Jeff Moritz said, he senses frustration the last few games because everybody wants to make the playoffs and that's slipping away. How do you impress upon players that they can't let that be the mindset shift to shift and game to game? That
it's something that there's games left. When that light gets dimmer at the end of the tunnel, sometimes the frustration sets in, and I've seen that a bit. I think the biggest thing for us is just to understand the perspective. Like, let's cherish each game, and then let's do the very best we can and see what happens. But I do think it's important to cherish each game and make sure that we're making the most of every single opportunity we have out there, both to enjoy it, to grow, and to get better, and as an individual and as a hockey team. And that's going to be our approach.
And just within a game, being able to, he said, guys, the team kind of hangs its head now if it gets scored on, as opposed to earlier in the season. How do you overcome that? Because it seems kind of like the chicken or the egg, like until you stop doing that in pushback, then you gain some confidence.
Yeah.
How does that ignite?
Well, there's no easy answer to it. We each got to do it ourselves, and we each got to find a way ourselves to be mentally tough. And that's just a reality. Like that, I use that word a lot, but I think it's a huge factor in success, both individually and as a group. And mental toughness, I think, matters as much as anything else. And so, as we go through, and we talked about it going in the Minnesota game, like there's going to be bad things that happen. We got to be able to handle it, and we got to be able to just keep fighting. And like this team's shown a lot of fight at different times through this season. And, certainly in the last couple of weeks, it hasn't gone great. And some of that fight hasn't been there. And I don't want to be remembered for that. This team, I want this team to be remembered for a team that fought its way through every single game. And then where the chips fall, the chips fall. So, if you look back to the beginning of the season, through the middle part of the year, our fight was great. We just got to get that fight back, regardless of how bad things, if bad things happen at different times in games. And ultimately that takes mental toughness.
Thank you.
Yep.
Go back to Ted Kaufman for the last question.
Just one quick one, Jeff, going back to the whole Draisaitl Insider, and you said you were at the Worlds. Was the German program one that you saw that was definitely on the upswing lately?
I heard, and I don't know this, but I heard Brian Burke said this a long time ago, like Germany was a country that he felt could become an elite country in hockey. And certainly when you look at, the number of athletes that are in Germany, and if hockey, has always been a fairly popular sport in terms of the number of pro teams there, it's definitely a country that, could continue to grow. And certainly this stretch of players is probably, I don't know their history on real, but, they've had a great little run here of some elite players coming into the league. Stutzel included in that mix. Paterka, a number of guys, right? Like a number of guys. So we'll see where it goes. Some countries it ebbs and flows a little bit. I don't know their grassroots hockey. I don't know anything like that, but I do know it's a country that could be, I was in Germany for one of those world championships, and the passion was great, and the passion for hockey was great. So they're always going to contest with soccer and other sports, but we'll see.
That's it for us today. Thanks, everyone.